And we are live. Hello, everybody. I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds for it to kick in across the different channels before I kind of get into it. Sometimes it just takes its time a little bit, but hopefully it's coming through. Hopefully we're here. Fantastic. So whether you're joining us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, I always say Twitter, and the logo still shows me Twitter, but it's actually X. So whichever platform you're on, thank you for joining us this evening. If you're here in the UK, in the afternoon, in the morning, wherever you are in the world, thank you very much. My name is Daniel Evans. I'm the Chief Executive here at BEC. Most of you following along with this probably know who we are, but just again to give you a bit of an update or a bit of a brief, we are a business support organisation set up as a not-for-profit social enterprise to really support founders, to support entrepreneurs, to support businesses, whether at that kind of early idea, concept and idea stage through to high growth and scale. You know, we're really about putting support in at different stages across the table, tackling those big issues that really face you when you are starting and scaling the business. We offer support that is really created by entrepreneurs and for entrepreneurs. Every single person in the team, a lot of the mentors, we have ran businesses, running businesses, have scaled and grown businesses. So we've seen a lot in our times collectively. It's always a pleasure to kind of facilitate a lot of the great work that we do and work with some phenomenal entrepreneurs. That really brings me on to what we are here to cover today. So back in 2021, we used to run a series of talks, of really conversations online, speaking with some of those founders. You know, we thought, well, we get to meet a lot of really interesting people working on some great things. We want to share their stories. We want to find out what makes them tick, why they do what they do. You know, running a business is stressful and a lot of hard work. So, you know, why have these people chosen to do this crazy thing? We want to bring that back. We want to do it again because certainly we haven't stopped meeting incredible people. We haven't stopped seeing incredible businesses come through. So for us to bring this back, to really share a spotlight on these founders and what they're doing, and see what kind of part they're playing in our community is really exciting. In a moment, I'm going to bring in our first guest for our return of our founder stories. I just want to give you a couple of very quick updates on stuff that we've got coming up on the horizon. So obviously, first and foremost, more of these. So we have Andrea from High Tech coming in next week to share a little bit about what she's been working on. We've got a few more lined up. So over the next few months, you're going to start meeting more and more of our founders, which is great. Next week here in Birmingham, it's Birmingham Tech Week. We have an event on the Wednesday morning called Untapping Opportunities Between Latin America and the West Midlands. We did do a live stream about it the other day, but really it is for businesses in the UK really wanting to explore opportunities across Latin America for expansion, for growth, for all sorts of stuff. It'll be here at AlphaWorks, where I am now, on Wednesday morning. You can sign up via our Eventbrite. The link's available on all our social media pages. Definitely check them out. And then the final update, just before we kind of get into today's session, is about our call for an advisory council. So having a little bit of a change up here at BEC in terms of some of our structuring. Really want to make sure that we're always tied into those grassroots of what we do and what we're about as a community-led organisation. So our advisory council is going to be set up to really help steer that direction, to help us set the agenda, to help really set that kind of direction for BEC, working alongside our board of directors. So we're on the lookout for entrepreneurs, for mentors, for other players and partners and stakeholders within the ecosystem to take part in that. So again, through the website, through our social medias, there is a link to express your interest in joining the advisory council. Something hopefully that you find it worthwhile to do, and something that you know, if you want to kind of get involved and help shape the future of BEC, then that is something I definitely encourage. So with all of that done, we will now turn our attention to today's guest. Really, really excited about this one. So we are going to have with us very shortly Will Crawford. So Will is the founder of Quiet Note. And rather than speak and kind of tell you what to do, we've got a little bit of a video, which is great. I absolutely love a bit of video content, which I'm going to show you all before then bringing Will in to find out a little bit about him and what he's doing. So here we go.
My name is Will Crawford, and I'm going to be your guide through these next 6 episodes as we explore and get to know what mindfulness through music is all about and how it works. Each week is broken down into a specific theme where we'll explore aspects of mindfulness and music and, of course, their relationship. The beautiful thing about this practice is that it can be used for so many different aspects within our overall lifestyle. You might be coming to this course wanting to get more control over your stress levels, feel more calm. You might also be curious as to how mindfulness through music can help you with your mood, your emotions, and help you gain a little bit more control in what tends to be quite a manic and crazy life that we're all living. So, let's make a start.
Will.
Hello.
Good evening.
How are we doing?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. To be honest, Dan, I think the best way that we can start this stream is by removing the professional facade and actually telling people that we're actually in the same building at the moment. Because Dan and I, we planned this well in advance, and without consulting one another, we showed up about half an hour ago, and we're like, oh, we're doing it from the same building.
Well, that's the beauty of a space like this is you get to mingle with all sorts of interesting people. So you are a floor above me though. So I bang hard enough on the ceiling, you might be able to hear me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So let's really kind of understand then who the hell you are, what you're doing here, and what you're all about. So I guess for people watching in, let's maybe start with a little bit of an explanation of exactly what Quiet Note is.
Yeah, absolutely. So Quiet Note is a company that is 2.5 years old now, and it was founded because of lockdown, really. And it was when I was studying at the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire, studying music, studied to be a classical guitarist and going into the music industry. Lockdown really screwed that up for me because I lost all my work, pretty much 9 months worth of work at the end of my degree. So I found myself at home, living back with my mum, not having any work, and realizing that an awful lot of people, my close friends and family, were struggling with their mental health and their well-being. And something that had always massively supported me had been a personal mindfulness practice that I discovered when I was about the age of 17. And I'd always seen a relationship between my personal mindfulness practice and my musical studies and education, listening, performing, creating music. And so in this time, I thought, well, is there a way to help people better understand mindfulness, but through music? And this was really the concept and the baseline for everything that Quiet Note has done since. So what we do is we run workshops, sessions, classes, courses, teaching people to get more control over their mental well-being, but by teaching mindfulness through music. And the business is sort of on two halves. You've got the sessions and the courses, and you've also got our online platform. And that video that you played at the start, that's all to do with the online stuff. So as well as doing those courses and classes, we've got that online model where people can access these resources. Because what you find with mindfulness and meditation is that when you do it, it's usually spoken and guided through the voice. But actually, what we're trying to do is put music at the forefront. This is the sort of innovative aspect of what we're trying to do. How can music be the guide for meditation rather than just nice and in the background?
Very exciting, very interesting. So I guess going from that position of wanting to pursue one thing in your life. So obviously, as you said, training as a classical musician, and then making quite a quick pivot then in terms of starting a business. What at what point did you really know that was that something purposeful that you were like, actually, I could start a business here, or did it kind of just happen by accident?
Yeah, it was sort of a little bit by accident and slightly on purpose as well. It definitely wasn't. I woke up one day having had this dream, and then I gave up everything else and went straight in and threw all my cards in. 2.5 years in, I'm still slightly balancing. When COVID was sort of a thing of the past, some of my gigs were coming back, and I still love creating and performing music, and I still do a little bit of guitar teaching on the side as well, just to support me in building this startup. So it certainly wasn't a give up everything that I was doing and go fully into this. However, my energy and my passion, all of that went into quiet note, really, because when I realized that, firstly, this is something that I really love and I'm passionate about. I really enjoy the work. I love seeing the difference we make to people. But secondly, that sort of the business side of me, I can actually see how this can really go far. I can see the potential to it becoming massive in all the different ways we're working, and actually the sort of overall impact. That is really what sort of, stole my heart in that sense. And so it's been a long process over the last 2 years of trying to figure out actually how can I balance this, because as you know, Dan, any entrepreneur at the beginning of a startup is trying to balance both the innovation and the creation and all the exciting fancy stuff and all the really boring stuff like, I've got to pay my bills. And it's a really important thing that not many people think about. When you hear about big tech companies starting up, it sounds really fancy, it sounds really fun, but actually at the bottom line, these really raw questions of actually how am I going to be able to afford my bills in the next month is a really important question. It's a lot of pressure for people. So I guess in answer to your question, it was a big overall process with that.
Big overall process, but I think that the passion for what you do and that kind of authentic enthusiasm for it comes across really well. And I think from when we first met, was something that really struck me as, to be crazy enough to do a business, I think you've got to love it. I can't think of anything worse than putting yourself through that stress for something that you don't really care about. Yeah,
and it definitely comes down to the care, because you're right, you've really got to throw everything into it when you're starting up a business, when you're starting up a company. You can't put a little bit of effort in. You can't sort of do it half-assed. In a sense, you've really got to have your heart and soul behind it, and with that becomes a lot of compromise in your life. And I think one of the things I've been very fortunate for is to have a wonderful support system, including the work that we did with BEC and everything that we've done, and actually having people in your life who understand that, okay, this is where your passion is. So if you are waking up early in the morning and working till ridiculous o'clock at night, you need people there to support you doing that, and you've got to be invested in it, because otherwise it'll kill you.
It just doesn't work, does it? No. And one of the other things that we see as almost, I guess, a challenge in people's mind, where they're what I would I don't like to brand, maybe brand, I'm going to say branded as a creative. So they're coming from a creative background. So, a musician, or, we've had theatre producers, artists, they create, visual art and that kind of stuff, come through and almost will then reach that point of starting or growing a business and scaling it, and have this kind of commercial element with then this artistic element, because of course, as you said, fundamentally, because music plays such a key part of what you do, was the kind of marriage between the two fairly easy for you, or was that something that was, again, any kind of struggle there? Because we'd seen in the past where people are like almost this conflict between the art and the commercial side of things.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the first thing I'd probably say to that is, any industry, any position that you hold, whether you are on the more traditional creative sides of, being an artist, a performer, a musician, or you're on the not what you wouldn't consider to be a creative role, like an accountant or a banker, actually there's creativity in every job. And the people we see rising above the rest and going the furthest know how to balance the creativeness and also that logistical side. Your best musicians in the world, they've got diaries, they've got finances, they've got time management to worry about. You can't be a fantastic musician, you can't be a wonderful artist if that logistical side isn't there, because you're not going to get any work. And at the same time, you can't be a fantastic accountant, you can't be a fantastic data analyst unless you've got that creative element to your brain. And I definitely think I would always err on that sort of, I enjoy the creativity, I love, the creation and the sort of philosophy behind what we're doing, but I also quite enjoy going into the detail and the nitty-gritty and having that understanding around it. And one thing that I've always sort of lived by is those areas which I'm not so great at, is I'll get some support. I'm not afraid to reach out and say, like, for instance, with my financial management, it's not a strong point for me. In fact, that's what I've been doing mainly today. I've made a right arse of it over these last couple of months. And that's totally my fault. But now what I'm doing is I'm reaching out and saying, okay, I need a little bit of support here, because there's so many things to balance when you're running a startup. There are so many things to think about that, to be honest, you've got to be really clever with how you manage your time and manage that creative logistical balance. Because I would love to just sit down and plan sessions, write music, and think about the business strategy. But that's all the dreaming, that's all the idea stuff. Actually, what I need to be doing at the moment is the implementation. The first year of building the company, that was creative central. That was such an awesome time. It was, final year of uni. I was very fortunate that I had my health, in very good shape during COVID. So I was just able to sit back, write music, come up with ideas and talk to people. But then it's like, well, you've got this great idea, but how are you going to make it a real thing?
And that's because I think you've almost, where you are in terms of the business today, have reached that really, for me personally, is the hardest point. Is, as I said, none of it is easy, and it doesn't matter whether you're day one or day 2000. Like it's always got an element of challenge to it, albeit different challenges. That first part is really fun and exciting because you're planning this new thing and all the coming up with a name and a logo and this, that, all that kind of really fun and thingy stuff. The stage where you've really got some kind of, establishment under you, and whether that's, again, in that kind of high growth tech scene, it is, got a decent amount of funding or income's coming in and you can really grow and rock it. For maybe more traditional businesses, it's reaching a place of maturity in terms of where they get. It's that middle stage that you're at now that I think is like the most difficult, where you kind of need to grow, but you need resource to grow, but you need to grow to get the resource. And it's everything feels chicken and egg. Everything feels like you're constantly putting out fires.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And it's just, for me, it's coming back to, okay, well, where's the vision? Where is this energy coming from? And this, this applies to mindfulness as well. It's like, there are going to be days, when things are going really, really well and it's all great, but you're going to wake up feeling really low. You're going to wake up feeling down and you're going to think, oh, there's something wrong with me. I've got all my ducks in a row. Everything's looking great, but I feel really rubbish. Well, actually, where's that coming from? What can we do to gain that better, deeper awareness of our body, of our mind, to help us push through these difficult parts and also the good parts? And it's about sustainability. You guys at BEC talk a lot about sustainability and actually being able to keep your head on through the good times and in the bad times. And that's what I'm very fortunate to have lots of people around me who, when it is getting a bit rough, there's that advice on hand. But yeah, this idea of we've got to grow to get to that next stage, but until we get to that next stage, we don't have these resources. It's frustrating. And the thing is, it's a roller coaster. Leland, one of your wonderful mentors that I was lucky enough to have a mentoring session with, she said, it's not like a daily, it's not like a weekly or monthly roller coaster. It's like literally an hourly roller coaster. And like, you can be sat there and you can make a sale, you're feeling absolutely great. And then half an hour later, you get an email coming in and one of your main clients has dropped off. It's like, you've gone from like, this is going great, this is going to be brilliant. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, what is going on?
And as you said, it can be hideous because it is that short term. So even if I think like today, so started off the day fairly good, had email about a bid that we put in for come back to say, sorry, but you haven't got the bid. So it's like, fucking shit, like blah, blah, blah. And, it ruins the week, and you think, shit. Then we've just began a delivery of a new program today, Accelerate UK for the Argentinian MC, and that was awesome. Like, great businesses, really enthusiastic. So back up again, and then being with you, so back down again. But that kind of, as you said, up and down in the day. Because of the for and I'm sure the people watching who would be quite keen for me to ask you questions related to mindfulness and kind of mindset. That kind of up and down and is quite taxing on us as individuals, to have it as you said, as kind of as rapidly as that.
Yeah.
What role, I guess, can these sorts of practices then play in? Can they help us to kind of take the brunt of some of that, to accept some of that, to mellow some of that out? What can we do?
Yeah, I think within mindfulness there is what we call the 9 mindful attitudes, and these are attitudes which I take very closely to my heart and think about it on a day-to-day. And one of the main ones which comes up time and time again in running a business and creating a startup is patience. Really understanding what patience means to you and to your company, because we all want to be that overnight success that comes up with a product, and then the next day we wake up and we've sold millions of orders and that's it, we're done, it's been great. But it doesn't happen in the real world. Every overnight success you've heard of has spent the last 10 years building that product. And so it comes down, a lot of it comes down to patience for me, which is saying, have patience with myself, stop judging myself so harshly. Yeah, I hold myself to high standards, but where do I stop with those high standards? Actually, can I go too far with those standards? Just saying, okay, well, are the goals I'm setting realistic? And sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Can I put a little bit more energy in, or am I putting the most in? Because you've got to keep in mind, we've got to balance our entire lives as well. I'm not one of those entrepreneurs to just step back and from everything else going on in my life, no drinks with my mates, no time for my relationship, I'm just going to put everything. That's not me. It's like having balance, and that comes down to patience. Just give yourself that bit of time. And then it comes down to trusting my gut as well. And mindfulness has taught me massively to trust my gut, because every day I spend some time just focusing on my body, focusing on my mind through meditation. And that teaches me actually how to trust my gut. The more you learn to tune into how you actually feel about the situation, and you're not lying to yourself or your ego isn't getting involved, the more you actually think about, okay, well, am I really behind this decision? Do I really know that this is the right thing for me to do? When you can trust your gut on that level, then you're not going to go wrong. But it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of practice. We can't just sort of tune in every now and then. We've got to get in there, which is why. Oh, and one thing I will say about mindset is you got to be careful, because there's a lot of bullshit out there. And you'll see videos of people being like, yeah, I get up at 5 a.m., I have a cold shower, I do a half marathon, then I come back, have a protein shake, then I have another cold shower, then I go for another half marathon, then I come back, have another cold shower, and then I do 3 hours of work, and by that time I've made my first million by the age of 21. You got to be careful of that, because it's just utter crap. Actually, it comes down to patience. It's just actually, instead of trying to fit your lifestyle into all of these people who you think are impressive and are trying to sell you things, why don't you take some time to figure out what lifestyle works for you, what you can do, what you can get out of things. Obviously there's going to be hard work in there. It's not an excuse to be lazy and just be like, oh, I'm just going to take my time with it. No, put the hard work in, but just trust yourself that you can choose the amount you can do.
Some really, really good stuff in there. I think that for me, there's certainly not that kind of one size fits all approach. You've got to, I guess, be a little bit aware of what works. Is you mentioned like the 5:30 start. Got to be aware of what works for you. Certainly, I'm the kind of person who, like, this kind of time is prime time for me. Like, I feel most productive like this kind of early evening. Like, I'd much rather do this and thing, and have a slow morning.
Yeah.
Go out with my mum at 9 o'clock for coffee and have a little bit of a chat and catch up, and maybe not start work till late morning, but work for because again, work works for me.
Yeah, and I'm the total opposite in that sense. When I wake up, I'm tuned in, ready to go. And actually, one of the hardest things I discovered was, I was always trying to build this big meditation routine in the morning for me. Make sure you get your half an hour of meditation in the morning was my mindset a while ago. And then I realized it doesn't work for me, because actually when I wake up, the best thing for me to do, just focus on my breathing, 10 mindful breaths, have some breakfast, and then get straight into work, straight into the strategy, straight onto the emails, within half an hour of getting up, because my mind is ready to go and I'm using the fact that I'm ready to go. Whereas this time, I'm never working at 7:30 because I'm always, I've had a full day of work and I'm tired. So why would I choose to do my work at 7 or 8 o'clock at night? Which is why I took this call. Because no, I'm joking. No,
it's not really work though, is it? You're just chatting away and chatting.
Chatting with a mate, aren't I?
Really, yeah, exactly that. The other thing with that, I think, is like the kind of building on that, figuring out works for you, is spotting your own kind of signs and signals that maybe things aren't in a good place. So the understanding, both in terms of not just from a mental perspective, but sometimes those kind of physical signs. Big one for me, eczema. So I, as a kid, used to struggle a hell of a lot with eczema. It's something that if I'm going through a lot of stress, it'll start to come back again. And it's being aware of things like that, where you can sit, you're like, okay, well, clearly I'm a bit stressed here. There needs to be a thing. Or for some people, it's things like eating. For some people, they may find that they're, a bit shorter with people than they normally are, or maybe quieter than they normally are. And I think it's spotting those kind of signs, or understanding the signs of from yourself of when things are maybe not in the right balance.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and it's a really difficult thing to give advice on, because, like you said, it's so unique and so different for each and every one of us. For me, I'm actually quite a loud, outgoing person. When I've got a lot of stress, when I've got a lot of pressure on, or in those intense moments, I'll be quite quiet and reclusive. I'll also be a bit shorter and a bit snappier, and I'm not naturally an angry or frustrated guy any of the time, except when I'm overworked. And I have a lot of work on, and I know how much I can manage. And when I start noticing myself to get a bit snappier, a bit shorter with people, I'm like, okay, let's take a minute. Let's take a minute and figure out what's going on, because it's not fair on other people, and it's not fair on my company, quietnote, to not be at my best. So sometimes we've got to say, okay, I'm just going to take the day off. I'm going to take a weekend. I'm actually going to go away and get away from it. And so I guess my advice for anyone trying to do that would be, actually take some time to reflect on how you're feeling. Do you feel good? Do you feel like you're in your element? Or actually, do you realize that, oh no, I'm not an angry guy, but I'm just angry all the time at the moment? Well, that's probably an indicator that something's wrong. It might be pressure going on elsewhere in your life, or it might just be simply you've got too much on, or you haven't got enough sleep. Often those really big issues are caused by really small problems.
Have a good sleep.
Have a good sleep. Yeah,
have a good sleep. Sleep's a key one.
Yeah, exactly. And this is, there's a lot of talk about sleep, and I'm not a sleep specialist at all. But actually taking some time to figure out how much sleep do you need? Do you need more than that sort of regular 8 hours? Do you need less than? For me, I need a little bit less. I don't need to sleep, a lot. But, for other people, you need a lot more sleep. It's just who we are. It's about getting to know ourselves better.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think we could end up talking for hours about this. And but I don't know. It's almost therapeutic in itself, because it gets you to be very conscious about where you're at. So having a conversation like this, where you're talking about mindset, talking about how people are feeling and whether they're stressed or not, almost in the back of your mind, you're kind of thinking, where do I relate to all that? Like, am I in a position where I'm stressed? Am I in a position where I'm taking care of myself? And almost becomes very self-reflective.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just taking that time for ourselves, isn't it? And actually, with it, with it being World Mental Health Day yesterday, which was a very busy day for me, as you can imagine. We get loads of sessions, which is great. But the one thing a lot of people were saying is actually just taking that time to sit down and talk or just listen was massive. And so, it really does come back to those simple things like, well, just go for a drink with your mates, just sit down, actually sit down and have dinner with someone and actually talk through things. Because we're interactive people and we're living in a world where we can become more and more isolated, working from home, just nipping on for a quick meeting and then back on our own. And actually we need that interaction because, it's that cheesy saying, isn't it? It's like a problem shared is a problem halved. And it's just so true.
I completely agree. And I think that I would like to think that one of the things that we offer in terms of support support or how we work with our founders is providing those ears. And I say ears because it's not just a case of, whoever from our team you're working with, in your case, obviously with myself or with a Lee Lamb or somebody wonderful like that, but also the kind of links with fellow entrepreneurs. Point in case with yourself, I know you've been doing a little bit of stuff with Lex, and I think I saw a photo that you guys had gone for a beer or something the other day. And again, it's those sorts of interactions that then are what's so powerful about something like what we do here.
Massively. And, that is one of the biggest takeaways that I had from doing the Proving Ground course with you guys is the fact that it wasn't just business, come in, do your meeting and then off you go. Actually, there was so much around that. And, some of the best conversations we had, some of the best tuition you gave me was in the pub, because it was those, not really thinking about it. We're not in a business mode. We're actually just chatting it through. And that was so easy to understand and so easy to implement, rather than having this whole charade and pressure of, we worked hard, don't get me wrong, but it's actually that human touch that made it so unique and special to our work, and why it sort of, pushed us really quite far.
I'm glad that you said in the pub and not at Mama Roo's at 2 a.m. some Friday night.
Well, I'm sure we've had many conversations there. I don't particularly remember them though.
Not sure what you mean. So linking on that, and you mentioned around that progress, and I think this is something I really want to highlight, because part of why I love what we are about and what we do, and certainly the probably motivating factor for putting myself through the work that it takes to run this organization, is seeing people go on that journey of development, and that journey of not just discovery, but starting to really make progress on those goals they set out. Because I think that the reward for us is people progressing. It's such a, I guess it's why people love careers like teaching or that sort of stuff, where you kind of take somebody from one place to another. Obviously, we were introduced just over a year ago, I think by Harriet, wasn't it?
Yeah, from the FSE group.
Yeah, so Harriet had introduced us. We'd exchanged a couple of emails, and I think you came here. You came here to meet with us first, because remember you had slightly longer hair then. So
I did. Yeah. I think I was wearing a tweed jacket as well.
Tweed jacket. There you go. Very good memory. Turned up with your guitar and thought, well, there we go. I resisted the temptation of saying, "Oh, get the guitar out, play the song," because I bet you hear that all the time.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, had that initial chat. Had a chat. I remember meeting with you then again, not long after that, kind of out of here, and then at the Innovation Awards like a year ago, which is again insane. You'd applied for Proving Ground, and then we accepted you onto that program. Tell us, I guess, a bit about that kind of journey then, in terms of what the last 12 months have really looked like for you guys, in terms of where you were towards the end of last year, what you've been up to, and how you've got where you're up to now.
Yeah, I think the biggest learning curve for me was the saying, you don't know what you don't know. So it was coming forward, from a music background. I built a company which was bringing in a very small amount of revenue, enough to be able to get onto proving ground and actually put forward that we're actually, generating leads and we've got a business here. But it was this idea of, I've got the idea, we've rehearsed it, it's working, but actually how do I scale this up to that next level where I can actually be running this full time? And that's what we've done in the last 12 months. Those are the goals which I've been trying to hit. And so, some of those numbers would be, when we first started, with you 12 months ago, we were on about 5 to 6 workshops and sessions a month, which is a nice bit of revenue. We're now between 16 to 20 a month. And that leap has been, enormous. It's totally changed the way the business runs in terms of our automation, and actually how we meet clients, and actually how we put them through our processes and our programs, in terms of really thinking about our client journey, really thinking about our product, really thinking about how we manage this, the admin, the logistics, kind of what we were talking about before, but also the creativity. And it was just giving us all those tools and resources to be able to do that. And then a huge point was actually turning our attention back to the online platform. So when we originally started, I thought quietnote was primarily going to work online. But actually, the most traction we got to start with was with the in-person work. People were loving working with me and the other practitioners in person. And actually, when it came to that, I said, right, let's put all our energy into running these sessions and workshops. And I said, when we get to the point where these are running and coming in without me having to spend every hour of my life trying to get sales and trying to book these workshops in, I can turn my attention back to the online platform, and then we can build the two up together. And it was pretty much the start of this year where we hit that point where I said, okay, let's move our attention back to the online. The sessions are a really comfortable point now. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm sitting back, with my feet up, just letting them roll in. There's still a lot of work which goes into it, but not as much as it was this time last year. Actually, more I can focus, on our social media, our online front. And this has opened up a whole new world of challenges for us. In fact, we haven't got to the point where I was expecting us to be with the online model at this point. This is still one of our biggest challenges, is actually creating, a working business model for our online platform. It's a huge challenge. I'm loving every minute of it. It's a lot of pressure, but it's because we've got the sessions and the workshops up and running in a comfortable place. It means not all the pressure is on with the online stuff.
The observation that I have there, and it's something that I know you'd mentioned before, and we've seen. I can't think of a single example of a founder that's not seen this. Is you fight that fire, you solve a challenge and get to where you got to get to, but you then find when you get there is another fire and another challenge and another thing to tackle, and it's almost like getting to the finish line of a race and then moving the finish line back another 100 meters. And it's somewhat enjoyable in that there's always a challenge to tackle. But I think the difficulty with some people is almost accepting ahead of time that it's never just there. Once we get to here, we'll be okay. Because that's just not true. It's, in life goals where it's like, oh, well, once I finish university, I'll be fine. Or once I've got a job, I'll be fine. Or once I've got X, Y, Z, I'll be fine. You're always chasing that next thing.
Yeah. And well, this is another of our mindful attitudes, is non-striving. It's great to chase the next goal. It's great to have your targets and your goals, but you've also got to know where you are right now. And you've got to feel comfortable with that, because we spend our entire life just chasing the next thing, the next sale, the next, the 2K a month, the 10K, the 100K, these milestones. If we just spend our entire life doing that, then we'll look back and realize we didn't actually enjoy what we had going on at that moment. And that's kind of what mindfulness teaches us. It's like, it's okay to have these goals and to be striving towards it, because that's how we grow and learn. But at the same time, if we're not enjoying what we're doing right now, and we don't actually, you've got to enjoy a challenge. And that's the whole point of the challenge. We learn and we experience from it, but we've got to enjoy it. Sometimes there are obviously exceptions.
But it's that that thing of looking back and realizing that it was always about the journey. Is actually the destination is, you get there and you find the journey along the way is almost, it sounds like some cheesy like American movie or something, but that's where actually you probably look back and think, man, those times were great. Like when it gets, school and university is a good example. Picking up getting your results at the end is kind of a bit of a footnote at the end of it. But actually what you probably look back at and remember the most is the memories along the way.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a business is a great example of this because, like you were saying, you got to care about it and you got to love what you're doing. And actually, if you care and you love for something, then you don't mind putting in the hard work and experiencing it.
And that's for me is why I certainly wouldn't trade what I do, because the trying to embrace and really enjoy that along the way, because that's key. And I never know if it's like a privileged position to take or not, but that kind of not tying yourself to doing something that you don't love or don't enjoy. And I know there's certain times, certain situations where people have to do something, they kind of have to do something. But I think even if you are remotely in a position where you could be doing something else that you really feel and enjoy, you need to go for it. You need to kind of try and put yourself in a position where you can give that a go, whatever that looks like. And it doesn't always mean you succeed, and people mess up and do all sorts of things. But to have lived and not maybe, I can't even think. Trying to come up with some kind of quote that they'll put on my headstone one day, but to have lived and not kind of gave yourself.
It's getting late, man.
but to have not have given yourself that chance, I think is you're kind of selling yourself out a little bit. So it's certainly what I try and encourage everybody that we interact with is if you have something that you want to give a go, you've got to do it.
100%. And if you've got the energy for it, it's worth it. It's worth it because there's so much you learn, in any experience, and people have just got to find what's right for them.
100%. We're gonna give it a couple more minutes. I'm gonna ask if anybody's watching and has any questions. You can submit questions. We kind of just rambled on and got into our own conversation and neglected you guys a little bit. We've got not necessarily a question, but a little comment in from Prince. Prince is an entrepreneur that we worked with back on the first cohort forward. He's watching him from Saudi Arabia. He certainly wasn't in Saudi Arabia when he was here. He was, I think he was living in Coventry at the time. So Prince, welcome as always. Hope you are doing well, my friend. As I said, if anybody else, whilst we kind of take this last minute or two, has got a question, please do feel free to submit it in. If you're just enjoying listening to us go on, then that's also fine. Of course, if you're watching this back when it's been recorded and put in other places, then hello to you guys as well. Maybe whilst we just wait to see if anybody does have any questions, tell us what is on the immediate horizon. Will, what's coming next for quietnote?
What is on the immediate horizon? Well, we're moving into a space where we're going to be working a lot more with one-to-ones. So the majority of our work is group work, workshops, sessions, courses, and we're actually now opening up a new stream, which is actually working with people one-to-one on this idea of mindfulness mindset coaching, and of course using the music to inform that. So that's a really exciting strand. And then, as I was saying before, we're really working with our online membership at the moment. It's slowly growing, and we've got loads of new content, loads of new things coming out with that. And the online membership works really well because to sign up, it's totally free and you get a load of resources, loads of articles, loads of support with that. And then alongside that, there are some further resources which you can pay for to get deeper into practice. And it's just building that membership, building this community of people experiencing mindfulness through music.
Easy as that.
Easy as that.
Easy as that. If only it was easy for that. And I'm as I said, almost done with this. But for people watching this who are looking to do something similar, in that they have a passion, they have an idea, they have something that they love and want to develop that into a business, what would be your kind of guidance to them?
Go buy Dan a beer. or a coffee, and sit down and have a chat with Dan. But it comes back to what I said about trusting your gut. Just give it a little shot. Talk to yourself. Figure out, do you really want this? Do you really believe in it? And then you got to get practical with it. Create the dream and then get as practical as you can with it, because dreams are wonderful. But what's the saying? No one ever did anything whilst they were dreaming.
That's very true. I fell out of bed once though when I was dreaming.
You fell out of bed. Well, there you go. So you'll either not do anything or you'll end up falling out of bed.
Either outcome's not good. So wake up and get to it. And I think that's always for just got to sometimes do it and get into it. And there's plenty of passionate and great entrepreneurs like Will who will get involved in terms of just being supportive, being around. I think that's one of the beautiful things about Birmingham and the kind of ecosystem here. But generally, we've seen it. Prince in Saudi Arabia. Prince is one of those kind of guys as well, who's quite easy to talk to as well. Do you take because again, referring to you as entrepreneur, I know there's some people who must feel uncomfortable with that title at times. Is that something that sits easy with you, or is that something that kind of you've had to learn to adapt to?
Yeah, definitely something I learned to adapt to. It's not something I refer to myself as very regularly. When people ask me what I do, I don't say I'm an entrepreneur. I just sort of tell them about quietnote and what we're trying to do. Exactly. But yeah, it's just one of those things.
It's so like grandiose that I hate it when people ask me what I do. But I love I love telling them about the actual work that it does. So it's kind of it's that kind of thing. But yeah, I think entrepreneur is one of those things that kind of is put on you by others sometimes, and and we are at the end of the day, almost as you said, everybody has creativity within them. I think everybody has an extent of entrepreneurialism to them as well.
100%.
Yeah, whether they use it or not is a totally different question. Fantastic. Right, we're going to leave it there. It's been an absolute pleasure, Will, to speak with you, to kind of share a little bit about your journey and background. Thank you for all the nice things that you've said about the support that we've given you as well. We didn't pay Will to say that, but he said it, so that is fantastic. As I said right at the start, we are bringing a few more of these in, catching up with some of our founders past to have a look at what they are doing and have been doing, and always on the lookout to bring in more entrepreneurs. So get in touch with us. As I mentioned, we've got an event next Wednesday morning here at AlphaWorks, so feel free to come pop along, have a coffee and say hello. Will, thank you for your time. Have a good evening, and I will see you all very soon. Goodbye.
Shan, thanks so much. Thank you everyone for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure to join you today. So see you soon.
See you soon.